All right, Jaden, you got the news for us?
That I do. We've got about 7 or 8 leading stories of the day here, starting off with the state of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott vetoes funding for federal summer lunch program for low income children. Abbott cited uncertainty over federal funding of the program as his reason for rejecting the state's participation. Greg Abbott has vetoed a $60 million budget measure that would have allowed Texas to enter a federal summer lunch program for low income children. The Summer Electronic Benefits Transfer, or Summer EBT program, would have given qualified families $120 per child to pay for lunches during the summer months in 2027. An estimated 3.75 million children statewide would have qualified. Let's unpack this. Unpack this like a school lunch, shall we?
So the funny part is one of the first lines you mentioned where he said uncertainty over federal funds. Basically what he's saying is we're not going to give $60 million to kids for their school lunches because we're not sure if the Republican administration is going to remove our funding. That's
Yep.
crazy. So you're not giving them anything, and the reason you're not giving them anything is because of Trump. But the party, I mean, they protect all the kids, right? They want to make sure all the
Mm-hmm.
kids, you know. And a lot of these do target low income families, by the way. So they're the ones that are going to be most affected. And I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but it's a pretty sizable amount of the U.S. Childhood population. Um, this is like their main meal, or they have like this is one of their big meals of the day.
Yeah, school lunches.
Right.
And there's a multitude of studies that we can draw from that can indicate the fact that when children go hungry during the day, their educational output is worsened. They can't focus. And, I certainly remember times when all I could think about was when's the next meal going to come? My stomach's rumbling. I cannot focus on this arithmetic right here because I don't know what the future looks like. And for that to be the case for millions of children throughout Texas during the summer, of which that is not a stable source of food, is concerning to me. And I think when they come back to school, many of them may be malnourished. Many of them may still face that lack of concentration. Many of them may very well see worsening educational outcomes as a result.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why we're not. Why haven't we funded this as a country? We gave 3.5 or what $3 trillion in tax breaks away
Mm-hmm.
to the billionaires, and we can't reduce it down a little bit to give kids school lunches in this country. Crazy to me. Crazy to me. And
Yeah.
I just want to point out, like, from a larger perspective, it's not only just the humanistic aspect of feeding kids. We want people to be as successful as possible. We are in the world right now. The perspective is we are vying for dominance over a country with 1.8 billion people and other emerging countries with similar populations to America, and we're not funding our talent in this country. We're not ensuring that they get food that they're able, because it does does go to test scores, period. And this is their main meal of the day. We should be encouraging this. We should want people to be intelligent. We should want people to be educated. We should want people to, be able to go and do their aspirations in the academic field because it's going to make us better as a country. For some reason, despite having a really robust infrastructure to do so, we don't fund that. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, next story. We can.
Yes, here we go here. Let's see what we've got. This was actually quite funny to me, and we can have a good laugh over this, perhaps. Man denied U.S. entry over border agents discover bald J.D. Vance meme on his phone sparks outrage. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's stringent procedures have once again come under scanner as a young traveler from Norway claimed that ICE personnel harassed him and eventually he was detained entry to the USA. The reason that the 21-year-old cites was that he kept a bald meme photo of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on his phone. The tourist named Mads Mikkelsen claimed that he was harassed at Newark Airport in New Jersey on June 11th. He was visiting the U.S. to see friends in New York and Austin, Texas, as per report from Nordly's. He said that the officers interrogated him at a separate room full of guards. He also had to show them backpack, mobile phone, and shoes, as per report on Nordlys. Certainly comes at a point of irony that Vance went to the UK and visited other European nations to decry their approach to free speech. And now, one who is visiting the United States is being detained and harassed because of his version of free speech, which is an image of Vance bald headed cabbage patch style.
I just want to point out, I'm not laughing at the fact that he was detained and not allowed in the country. That's obviously
Mm.
horrible. What makes it funny for me, really, is how triggered the border agents had to have been. Just
Oh,
full.
yeah.
To see, like some super mega. He's got his LARP gear all on. You know what I mean? He's got his Trump hat, a flag as a cape. He's running around. No,
Oh, hell
no, we
no.
can't have this. No, not my president.
Absolutely not.
Not my president. That's the comedic part, not the fact that he was, is that I just imagine the border agents just being triggered. Like the fact that you have to get to that point where they're just like, no, is you got to be a fragile person, Because I'm gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
real. If someone took that meme, so I don't know if you seen the meme.
Hmm.
Okay, so the meme is it's like just it's obviously like bald headed Cabbage Patch JD Vance. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't, you can look it up. It's literally everywhere. But if they took that and put that to Biden, I would probably laugh. People being denied entry to the country, you gotta be real triggered. Real triggered. I don't know if you have more to add
Pretty
to that,
thin
but
skinned
you just want to
response
move on.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to move on to the next one,
Um,
but that's all I got to add.
so this is a Supreme Court ruling here. The Supreme Court eases rapid deportation to countries where immigrants have no ties. The High Court's majority offered no explanation for its ruling. Supreme Court on Monday cleared the way for the Trump administration to swiftly deport foreigners to countries where they have no previous ties. The justices lifted an order from a federal judge in Boston who had placed restrictions on the deportation of those countries. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy had issued a nationwide injunction that required the administration to give immigrants meaningful advance notice and a chance to raise objections before they are sent to so called third world countries, nations not specified in their original deportation orders. But the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's emergency request to put Murphy's injunction on hold. Fire up the deportation planes, Tricia McLaughlin, a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, said in a statement celebrating its ruling. High Court's majority offered no explanation for its ruling, but all three of the court's liberal justices dissented. Writing for the Liberals, Justice Sonia Sotomayor called the ruling a quote abuse of the court's power that amounted to quote reckless lawlessness on the part of the administration.
You got
I
thoughts on
can't
that? I mean,
see
it's
any
pretty.
good
Yeah, go
reason
ahead.
behind this.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
That's the move. It's ideologically bound, and that's obvious to literally everyone. But they pick and choose their battles. This is one that they've picked and choose, and they've gone with it. Ultimately, the Supreme Court is worried about legitimacy, but they're going to try and push the envelope with stuff that they think they can get away with. On immigration, they think they can get away with it, and we see on other things that they don't. That they back off. But this is pretty typical maneuvers of the Supreme Court. I expect more of them. I don't think that done a good enough job reining in Trump. I feel like they have done some job reining in Trump, just where they think it's going to create some sort of constitutional issue. And that really is the question. Like, if there's a constitutional issue that's going to inevitably come up from this, I think it really matters, like how ideological the question is. They're going to side with whatever ideological goal. If there's not going to be this immense constitutional issue that comes up or something that they don't think that they can get out of by just making up some bullshit like they always do, then they're going to go ahead and do it. So,
Yeah, and never mind the fact that this has very clearly opened up a wave of humanitarian issues in the countries of which these people are being deported to without any sense of due process, without any sense of backing. There is prejudice that exists in these other nations against people of certain ethnic groups, of people with certain religious backgrounds, who will not be treated in good terms should they be deported there. But this administration pays no mind to that, and it goes to show the lack of decency, just basic human decency that they have for people who simply look different from them.
Yeah, because you notice they ain't trying to deport Elon.
Yeah, notice that.
So, just to point
We
out.
got some more migrant related stories here. ICE has deported dozens of U.S. citizens, report says. Amid the ongoing immigration raid in Southern California and elsewhere, some American citizens have been rounded up, prompting criticism of four federal agents. According to a report, though, American citizens like Job Garcia have been detained by federal agents, including Immigration and Customs Enforcement, hundreds of times, even before this recent uptick, with dozens of them deported out of the United States. Citing a government report, Migrant Insider revealed that at least 70 citizens were deported by ICE between 2015 and 2020, with hundreds more detained or arrested. The Government Accountability Office said that in that period, ICE agents arrested 674 potential U.S. citizens, detained 120, and deported 70, though Migrant Insider noted that the actual number could be much higher. ICE does not know the extent to which its officers are taking enforcement actions against individuals who could be U.S. citizens, the GAO said.
I just have a question.
Hmm.
Where are they deporting them to?
That's a good question.
Because like if you're someone that like I get it, like you, this is the problem with ICE, right? Is like there's a lot of people that just don't have the documentation, right? um, they just don't have it. A lot of people lose it. Um, they move, whatever. Um, where are they sending them to though? Right? Because if they're picked up by ICE, they don't have any of this documentation, and they're an American citizen. Where are they getting? What are they just like? Where are you from? They're like America. You're not from there. Did they just pick a destination? I think that would be a good follow up for that. That's a bit,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a bit
I guess
confusing.
whichever nation looks brown enough to them, they send them to.
I guess they just pick and choose. It sounds like. So
Let's see
anyway,
what else we've got here. Yes. Let's see. Another deportation story among us. Purple Heart Army veteran self deports after nearly 50 years in the United States. For 55-year-old U.S. Army veteran Sejun Park, this was the hardest moment in his life. Not getting shot in combat, not the years battling post traumatic stress disorder or addiction, not prison. It was leaving the United States, a country he called home for nearly 5 decades. On Monday, Park, a green card holder, self deported to South Korea. His removal order was the result of charges related to smug possession and failure to appear in court for over 15 years ago, offenses that he said stemmed from years of untreated PTSD. Park's story reflects both the challenges of life after combat and the perils that non citizen veterans face if caught in the legal system. Realities made harsher amid the Trump administration's push for record deportations. Uh, the fact that there's not an extra degree of credence and protection applied towards migrants, undocumented migrants, or what have you, that served in our military and that is legal to do, is startling to me. That even if you lay your life on the line for this country, regardless of your status, you are yourself are subject to the same deportations happening to people who didn't serve.
yeah, yeah. I've seen. So I saw a video on TikTok yesterday or today. It was basically this kid, 20 maybe, was obviously distraught. Caption said his parents were being deported, which tracks. Not sure to the validity of it, but you know for a fact that some U.S. citizen military personnel are going through it. Um, so there's that. But I also remember the Trump administration, his last time around, he deported people that were in the U.S. military that were enlisted that were
Hmm.
fighting for us, took away their citizenship ability. Like, what? The person comes here, puts their life on the line to defend America, and then we ship them off, we get rid of them.
Yeah,
In
why
this
aren't they
instance of
rewarded with
this,
citizenship?
I mean, it seems like a pretty simple thing. Like, clearly, not
A
everyone's trying to come here to
no-brainer.
fight for America.
Right.
But we have seen the self deported. We have seen this happen where people are leaving America. I'm not sure to all of his reasons, rationales, or I'm not sure to all of them, but people are very concerned, and I think the larger picture is how they're being treated. right? There's a very demonizing tone. There has been a very demonizing tone, and they continue to attack people just for being immigrants. Doesn't matter what they've done for the country, just that they're immigrants. That's disgusting. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you are MAGA, have some goddamn self-respect and
Hmm.
recognize that's not okay. It's really not. Like, there's no argument that we should have here. It's, we gotta find a name for that. But there's nothing to argue here. If you think that, you're just morally bankrupt. Especially if
Yep,
you're a
I agree.
non-veteran. Can you imagine Trump, a non-veteran, bone spurs, dodge drafting, draft dodging, like refute, like he's deporting people that fought for our country that are undocumented. The
And you would
unmitigated
think there'd be
gall.
some line of defense from MAGA to say, hey, no, wait a second. This guy did more than my fucking Cheeto guzzling ass ever did. Keep him here. But no.
No.
We've got another story here. This one is tangentially related to the migration struggle here. In interviews with the Washington Post, multiple farmers expressed their dismay with the loss of farm workers under Donald Trump's harsh immigration policies and his administration's waffling on subsidies. In a deep dive focusing on one farmer who voted for Trump, 36-year-old J.J. Fick of Kirk, Colorado, the Washington Post is reporting that he, along with other farmers, are facing possible ruination now that the roundup of immigrants have begun in earnest and promised help is uncertain. The federal government has promised JJ a $200,000 grant spread across 2 years to cover the cost of seasonal farmhand work from Latin America. In a place where local legal help was nearly impossible to keep, the Post is reporting before adding, but then Trump, in the earliest days of his second term, threatened to break tens of thousands of those deals, suspending billions in agricultural funding and decimating the staffs that managed it. Swept up in the freeze was JJ and the $50 million grant program he'd signed up for, along with the 140 other farmers across the country. Now, those farmers, many of whom supported the president, are being left to scramble for workers, of which there are few to choose from, and are worried about the future. Noting, JJ had joined 81% of Yuma County's voters in supporting Trump, whom he considered the better of two bad options, the report added. JJ's grant was frozen in late January as top administrators considered whether to cancel it. Over the next 2 months, more than 20 farmers requested $4 million owed to them, according to documents reviewed by the Post. None were paid. Essentially, these farmers are left without any sense of help. Financially, work wise, they're scrambling right now on deals that have been retracted as a result of the crackdown for migrant labor in their farms. And additionally, they cannot find people to supplement that labor. They're finding what they have found are people who are quitting prematurely, people who are not showing up on time, people who are complaining about their rates of pay, not doing the jobs that apparently migrants were stealing from them. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? People didn't move across the country to go work on a farm? That's wild.
Yeah, I thought that was your dream,
I can't
MAGA.
believe that. That's that. That's the most shocking thing I've literally ever heard. We did
Yes.
watch this with Doge though, where Trump did this thing where he started cutting off like stuff subsidies that he'd given out to farmers. We covered one guy on the channel that he it had to do with drain pipes, and he had the work scheduled out for the next week, and the Trump administration cut $300,000 that they were gonna that was given to him under the Biden administration for the Inflation Reduction Act, and then he's like sitting there trying to figure out what's happening. He's just like, I don't understand. And he's still to this day
Mm-hmm.
won't come to terms with the fact that he voted for this, or at least that he was lied to or could have been lied to by this guy. I'm not sure what his stance on the farm thing was, but yes, we've watched it happen. The Trump administration not only has done that, they have in this instance targeted migrant labor through the subsidies that are coming through. I have watched as literal sources that I used to pull off from the DOJ website about immigration crime statistics have been removed. They've purged databases, purged government websites, literally getting rid of anything that they could consider to be problematic, which in the world of free speech and wanting people to have access to information, they sure don't. But it doesn't surprise me. Farming is the most subsidized industry in America for a reason, because we have to feed people. And when you start messing with that, you're going to have negative outcomes, negative consequences. It may not be a super substantial drop off, but you can believe that prices are going to increase. Prices are absolutely going to increase to cover the cost of having to, of not pulling enough out of the field, and to have to find workers that charge more if you can find them. So
Yeah. And let's see here. My computer's freezing right now, but there was another story that I wanted to cover
no,
here.
get it a blanket.
Yeah, I know. There we go. I think it it just got through here. We have two more stories left. A senior Ukrainian lawmaker who nominated U.S. President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize has withdrawn it as peace talks between Kyiv and Moscow slip under the radar and the president keeps his sights fixed on the Middle East. Alexander Meresko, the head of Ukraine's Parliamentary Foreign Committee, told Newsweek on Tuesday that he had, quote, lost any sort of faith and belief in Trump and his ability to secure a ceasefire between Moscow and Kyiv. Morensko originally nominated Trump for the Peace Prize in November, but said he submitted his nomination withdrawal on Monday morning. Trump returned to the White House in January, pledging to end Europe's largest land conflict since World War II in just 24 hours. But as the weeks and months dragged on, optimism for a quick deal evaporated, and the Republican, a self-styled peacemaker in chief, grew overtly frustrated with the glacial pace of progress. Are we surprised, though? Are we truly
No,
surprised? I'm not.
no,
Yeah, I'm
he
really
doesn't
not.
deserve a peace prize. I don't think any
No, not at
president
all.
does, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's it. That's
Not
it.
at all.
Well, now they can't say that he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I think there was one more guy that nominated him, but that is a funny story because I don't. You remember that we debated that a lot. I don't know. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
It was years ago when it happened, but we debated it a lot. And they were just like, "Yeah, I was not." And we had to explain the nomination process to them. Like literally, I could be nominated.
I
Is
remember
there
that.
anyone
Yeah.
out there that could nominate me for a Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I suppose those mom jokes have kept us at bay.
They have.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have. I don't have anything on that story. He doesn't deserve a Peace Prize.
And
So
I got two more stories here, real quick. Virginia man pleads guilty to pew-pewing Latino men he thought were illegal immigrants. A Virginia man pleaded guilty on Wednesday to pursuing and ultimately pew-pewing two Latino men because of his anger at illegal immigration. On Wednesday, June 18th, Douglas W. Cornett pleaded guilty to two counts of federal hate crimes involving attempts to kill and one count of discharging a firearm during a federal crime of violence. Are we not surprised that this is
no.
the result of the rhetoric? Right. This happened before. This happened before with the Asian hate crime spikes that happened in 2020 and any other demographic of people he targeted. We saw spikes in anti Muslim sentiments during his initial Muslim ban and the talk around that. So naturally, violence follows wherever Donald Trump's rhetoric and bullhorn effect leads it to. They don't
Yeah,
give a shit about who's legal. It's just who's brown.
I mean, yeah, I'm a. It's disgusting. The whole story. It doesn't surprise me. You run into like a statistic, right? Of like, there's a statistical problem here, right? Which is, it's similar to stochastic terrorism, right? But
Yep.
it's that similar idea, right? Where you have an entire group in the population, and statistically speaking, out of that, one person, two people will do terrorist acts. There is no way really, I mean, you can catch them, but there's no way really to identify them in the population about which and who's going to do it. Very similar thing. I know this as a content creator that I am very aware of what I say and how it could be taken in a negative context. I literally think about it all the time and how people could construe it, right? I think about that a lot. So the fact that people with tens of millions of followers, people with the most known names on the globe, are using this rhetoric, yes, you're pulling from a larger pool. If I speak to 500,000 people and say I say something off key that could provoke someone to do something, right? There's a smaller pool, just a hypothetical. I say something that's a call to action or whatever, right? Or I say something about X, Y, Z group. There's a smaller pool. But if you have this enormous pool, 50 million, 100 million people following you, out of that pool, there's going to be more people that are likely to do that or potentially could do that or will do that, And so the fact that the Trump administration and these guys run around and say this, and we watch these heinous acts happen, they take no accountability for them. They move on. MAGA praises that it happens usually. In this instance, I'm surprised they haven't. Probably we'll see the videos or the videos of them defending it. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, we just run into this really gross version of the world where people have complete lack of empathy and no humanity for people, where self-defense and nationalism supersede people's lives, and not
Yep.
even for a justifiable reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And here's a story from the Leopards Ate My Face party. Florida Republican Representative Kat Kamek has revealed that she almost died last year as a result of the state's 6-week abortion ban, which left the hospital staff reluctant to treat her ectopic pregnancy for fear of criminal prosecution. This was because the state's 6-week ban had come into effect at the start of that month, causing staff to fear they could lose their medical licenses and be sent to jail if they gave her the drug which blocks the flow of folic acid to the embryo to prevent its growth. Kamek was only 5 weeks pregnant at the time, and the embryo had no heartbeat, and her own safety was in jeopardy. But nevertheless, the Congresswoman found herself forced to pull up the letter of the law on her phone to argue the case, and even put it in a call to Governor DeSantis without being able to reach him, before staff relented and came to her aid. Florida regulators have since issued new guidelines to clarify the situation, and Kamek, who is pro-life and opposes abortion except in the case of rape and incest, or when the mother's life is at risk, is pregnant again and is due in August. But surprisingly, given her ordeal, the representative doesn't feel the law itself is at fault and instead blames Democrats for scaring medical professionals into confusion over their responsibilities. Quote, "It was absolute fear mongering at its worst," Kamek told the Journal, while acknowledging that the reproductive rights activists might draw the opposite conclusion from her story. Quote, "There will be some comments like, well, thank God we have abortion services, even though what I went through wasn't an abortion." Except, yes, it was. Medically, it was. This is the Leopards Ate My Face party. You didn't think you'd have to run into the problem of having to consult the law, the governor, as it relates to your abortion case until it happens to you. Until you need a life saving abortion, until it's your life under jeopardy. And still, it's the advocates who advocated for your autonomy and safety and ease of access for this procedure. Somehow they're at fault for this? Give me a break. Shut up.
I remember this story about this anti-abortion activist that was he was a congressional member, and he was super anti-abortion. Guess what he did? Paid for his mistress to get an abortion, and we see
I
it
remember that.
literally all the time,
Yep.
literally all the time. So is that concludes the news?
I think we can make an early
Oh wait, I want
projection that Zohran Mamdani has won the Democratic primary for New York mayor here. With
okay,
89% of the vote in,
nice.
he's at 43.5 to Cuomo's 36.3. No room to really make up that deficit with the last 10% of the vote outstanding. Seems he's won this thing.
I'm gonna be
Good for
real.
him.
Cuomo just looks like an old creepy dude that talks about tits too much.
What do you mean looks like?
There's one more story I wanted to get on before we
Yeah.
go, and it was the one we talked about in the other video, which was the FBI was rerouted. Just briefly, the FBI was
Hmm.
rerouted to go and work on immigration and pulling people out of the country, and then had to be sent back. Why? Because they were the counterterrorism workers for the U.S. and they were tracking counterterrorism. And the Trump administration pulled them off to deal with immigration. Said, "Oh, Iran, sleeper cells, whatever, move them back." Uh, you can check out the other video if you want the full thing, but it's just the Trump administration putting people in this degree of jeopardy is disturbing.
Hmm.
You should be against this. It would be like we're gonna pull out all the cops in all the cities to deal with. I mean, I don't know how many they pulled. They didn't specify, but like we're gonna pull out cops from dealing with crime to go and do something that's you know
Yeah.
meaningless. It's not really making
Hmm.
that much of a difference. So, anyways, that's the news for the
Yeah.
day, and yeah,
Yeah.